Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick Austin, and tonight we are on Chapter 13 of our top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time. And tonight, Austin, this series will have as many installments as there are ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
That is true, Ultimate Humans. We're knocking out our last 21 tonight. Possibly, maybe.
Man, I wish you hadn't said that out loud. It would be wonderful if that happened, and I think there's a chance that some of these will kind of blow through because there'll be things we've talked about already. But as we've discussed in previous installments, this has been running for so long, I don't remember what we've said.
We've said some things, had some laughs.
So,
some tears.
We're going to jump right into it in just a second, and before we do that, I just want to remind people, because it's been a while since I brought it up, and we are getting closer to the end finally, that way back when, about 9 years ago when we started this series, we put in a link so that you could send us your 50 favorite, I don't know if anybody remembers this, we've all slept since then, but your 50 favorite superhero movies, and when we're finally finished with, and you don't have to do 50, you can do 35, you can do 12, however many you've seen. If you're watching this show, you've probably seen at least 50 superhero movies, and you can send us your list, and then we're going to compile that like we did quite a while back now with favorite DC and Marvel characters, and we're going to count down your favorite 50 superhero movies shortly after we finish this series. And then we'll probably take a bit of a break from this kind of thing and then see if we can come up with another fun category. If not for a list, just a series of a somewhat lengthy series of discussions that we can have about superhero movies.
We got to do the reverse, right? We got to do the worst ones.
The worst
next.
ones, yeah. I didn't know if you wanted to do that as the very next thing, or if you want to take a break from it and do another discussion topic in the middle. But I really like keeping Superhero Rewind Unscripted alive this way, where we still have a show about superhero movies that's discussion, but is not review or commentary.
No, I'd be fine jumping straight into the worst next. I might need a little bit to knock out what my list would be, but I mean, I've got time.
That's exciting, and yeah, I mean, I'm fine jumping to that too. Honestly, I was just thinking you were maybe burnt out on this, but we hadn't talked about it.
No, not at all.
It's been so long since you made this list. You certainly can't be burnt out on making the list.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I already find I don't agree with my list. I want to, like, George Lucas special edition my list.
I have exactly the same thing. I'm also thinking that when we finish, we should maybe just real quick recap, like, blow down our lists.
That's what I assume, too, yeah.
And go, just to remind you, since, you've possibly graduated high school or had children since we started the show.
Possibly both. And those children have possibly graduated and had children of their own since we started.
You could be a parent and then a grandparent. Okay, Austin, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So you said we were at number 21, yes?
Yes, because my 22 was Captain America Winter Soldier, which is the last thing we did.
And
for me, anyways.
And mine was Infinity War if we got to my 22.
Yes. Yes, I remember
I
that.
thought we did. So it was Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and then Infinity War. Those were my last three.
Yep. Yeah, and mine were Dread, Hellboy, The Crooked Man, and Winter Soldier.
Man, I'm glad you reminded me of that again, because I still got to watch that movie.
Yeah, I really like it. I don't know. You definitely won't like it as much as I do. I don't know how you'll feel about it, but...
Well, and when I say I gotta see it, like, don't take this the wrong way. It's not because I just can't. I'm trying to the bit. I can't wait to see it. It's very weird for there to be a new superhero movie that I missed. Like, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, exactly. We got to do that. We got to do Dogman.
Dogman?
That's a superhero movie.
I had that thought. I was like, are we gonna review Dogman? One of the only
Wolfman.
I was gonna say one of the only superhero movies, like technically superhero movies that I never reviewed, that I missed, was a few years ago. There was
Captain Underpants.
Captain Underpants. Thank you. I couldn't think of it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know if Dogman is actually a superhero thing, but
off my radar. I mean, I very nearly skipped Super Pets. I even went to that.
I went to that, and I felt really uncomfortable being in a theater watching that.
Well, the weirdest thing about it was just how long our spoiler cast was. Like, I think we talked about that for like 2 hours.
I don't even remember anything about that movie except the after credits scene.
Let me read this super chat that just came in, and then we'll... I keep saying we're going to jump right in it. This is Tobin Belpon's fault, okay? Thank you for the $10 super chat, though. Really appreciate it. He says, happy to be here doing a stream for once. I'm glad you were able to make it live. Thanks a bunch. To both of you, how do you find the balance between objectivity and subjectivity? Oh, we got to talk about this while we're about to count down our superhero movies?
That's like a whole GNN topic.
It is. Okay, let me read the question. How do you find the balance between objectivity and subjectivity when you enjoy/critique something? Do you even care to? Thanks, guys. Yeah, I look for something of a balance with that. Certainly. What I do is I approach it with two brains. I say, like... And you can't be fully objective, obviously, when you're talking about something as subjective as, was this movie any good? You know, when you're reviewing something. But I do approach things very often with the two brains of how much did I personally enjoy this on like almost a primal level, where I'm not even thinking while I'm watching it, this is what I'm like, this is what what I'm not liking about it. It's just the feeling I'm having while I'm watching it. And then the more analytical, was this effectively handled? Because those are two different things. There are lots of effective things that I don't like. You know, they accomplish what they set out to. I just don't have any interest in what they set out to accomplish, or it made me feel too icky, and I realized that was the point, and I'm glad it was made, but I don't ever want to sit through it again, right? So that's as close to a balance between those two things as I get.
Yeah, I mean, it's case by case, but you know, there's certain things where I try to have more of a balance, and then obviously, like, I love B movies, so like that obviously falls more into the subjectivity line. Basically, for me, the ultimate dividing point is Rocky, because the Rocky films, I have two lists of how I rank them, one on enjoyment and one on actual like quality. Where the quality one, Rocky 1 is number one, and enjoyment, it's Rocky 3. That's like the one series where I have that with, where I'm like, I can't even rank these like consistently.
Yeah, that's such a great example. Like to take a franchise and go, some of these, well, and actually, this very topic will come up later with my list. With superhero movies, I absolutely have this with things, but yeah, the idea of you have and you guys can probably guess which franchise I might be talking about when it comes to superhero. But here's a franchise. Here's what I feel like is objectively, or as close to objectively as you can get to, the best. Again, the best is such a subjective idea, but when we're talking about quality of execution, I think this is the best one, but it's not my favorite. There are, I bet we could both come up with other franchises that we have this with, right? And I think and some of it has to do with just nostalgia and what you grew up with, right? So like I'm not going to begrudge anybody where the movies that are closest to them or that they care most about with Star Wars are prequels. Like I don't get that, but I didn't grow up with those. I was already older, right? But a lot of people would go, my like episode 1 is near and dear to me, but I recognize that Empire Strikes Back is a better movie, for instance.
Yeah, I think Robert puts out a good point, which is it's quality versus rewatchability. There can be very different things.
Dan's Den, you guys are going to drag this out. Good discussion, though. Well, thanks. Well, I mean, it was a $10 super chat. I wanted to give it its due. You're right. That could have been an entire GNN.
We got to support our ultimate humans.
Are you going for like every certain amount of minutes you're gonna bring this up?
No, that's just it's the name of our.
Should we even explain it?
No.
Okay.
If you get it, you're an ultimate human. If you don't, you're subhuman trash.
Oh my god. This is what this program has degenerated into. That's wonderful. But yeah, I love the idea that you have a quota.
Yeah, it's like a little person doing like a little check. Like how many times is he gonna say it?
Yeah, or you're like a McDonald's employee where you have to get a certain number of orders done in a certain number of minutes.
No, it's in my contract. I think Robert is the person counting.
Okay, I think we have sufficiently discussed that for the sake of this program, though that could still be a really good lengthy GNN topic. And it'd be nice to come back and do one of those again. It's been a while. Austin!
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is your number? 21! I'm in a mood tonight. Sorry, go ahead.
Apparently, in like a fiesta mood. My number 21 is very topical for us.
I need a sombrero.
It's the Toxic Avenger, which we're doing next week on Rewind.
Wow. Yeah, I was waiting for when that was finally going to show up. Okay, how does that make... And I'm not making fun of you when I ask. I'm just asking. Yeah. How does that make it that high on your list? Understanding that you are a big B-movie guy and you love stuff like that, that still seems wacky high to me.
No, I think it's just it's a very fun satire. Like it's well, now I have to explain why it's one above.
I should have said
Soldier.
Wacky. That's not fair. Again, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just I am surprised it made it quite that high.
No, that was a movie I was very surprised by, where I watched it and I was like, okay, this is going to be a movie that's like in your face, like let's try to be as repulsive as possible. And then I started it and I was like, oh no, this is like Spaceballs. Like it's like on that level. And I was just kind of like really down with the straight up farce of it all. And I don't know, it really tickles my sense of humor, I guess.
I'm so curious to rewatch it, which we're doing next week now, because I was repulsed by it when I saw it in high school. But that was high school, and this is coming from a guy that couldn't get through Blade back then. So
yeah, and I don't know that you'll like it, but I feel like you'll have a better experience this time than that.
If not better, I imagine completely different.
Yeah, well, yeah, I imagine it'll be.
You're surprising me when you say it's on a Spaceballs level. Like, I didn't even, when I saw it, think of it as superhero parody, really. So much as just let's be as like gross and crude and violent as we can, and it's sort of a superhero movie. So I'm curious to see how the like you said the satire or just the parody of it plays.
One like it's just super goofy. Like he just walks in and hits people with his mop because he's a janitor. Like it's so just I don't know, just like ridiculous.
It's weird, and I think you made this point recently, but it's weird just how many parodies we've done early in the commentary project.
Yeah, a ton. We're blowing through all the good ones. We're gonna have all the bad ones to dread in the future.
Well, everybody look forward to Austin doing all of the talking when we get to the Toxic Avenger.
I know. I can't wait.
We're doing that next week.
But yeah, I don't know. I've watched like quite a bit of Trauma in the last little bit, like the last year or so, year or two. And I don't know. That's just a company that I kind of appreciate for what it is. They're just little people doing their thing.
Yeah, that guy's a character.
Yeah.
Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely a character. And I mean, he got to be in all three Guardians films.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Because that's where Gunn gets his start.
Yeah.
Hey, was there anything else you wanted to say about that? Because it will not come up again.
No, I have a whole rewind to talk about it next time.
It's exciting. Okay, well, my number 21, everybody strap in to be not at all surprised by my list and completely flabbergasted by things that Austin will put on his list. Maybe not by this point. Maybe people will go, well, yes, of course. At this point, the man put Logan at 92. My my number 21.
93, actually.
Oh, I was so close. Hey, look. You should be impressed that I got that close when we've been doing this so long that people have graduated from high school and had children.
And then those children graduated and had children. I agree.
My number 21 is Captain America Civil War.
Oh, okay.
Which becomes the... I mean, I don't want to give anything away. So it's right next to Infinity War. What I almost said was it's the highest Avengers movie on my list, but it, of course, is not actually an Avengers movie. But I like it more than any of the Avengers movies. That's kind of the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're both in agreement on that.
Yeah. Civil War is, and we've talked about this, so I won't spend too long on it. I will try to blow past the ones we've talked a lot about already as much as I can, but I don't want to pay it too much lip service because it's high on my list, and I want to tell you why I like it as much as I do. Although a lot of these you guys have heard me talk about a lot, obviously. But Civil War is a super impressive movie to me for the way it juggles all of its characters. We've talked about that. But it's one of the best examples of improving on source material, which is one of the reasons I think it deserves this spot. It's also... Because that was a thing that early on... when the MCU was getting going, I was like, I hope they adapt Civil War, and I hope they don't do it like super late in the game, because there's so much you can do with that premise, and it was just squandered in comics, I felt. And
should be at the start. Like, it should be closer to when you're beginning than as far as you are when we got it in 616. Like, you can tell that was something that was planned for the Ultimate Universe.
You know what? I didn't even realize that, but that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, because if you had a status quo of superheroes for that long, why wouldn't that have happened earlier?
Mm-hmm. No, that's why Legends, comic-wise, is a way better Civil War than Civil War is, even though they're not, like, the heroes fighting each other, but that's still, like, the registration thing.
Yeah, we reviewed that. I need to read it again. I remember really liking it, but nothing is coming to me about that right now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the 80s DC event, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's where you kind of, I think, first get the Justice League post-Crisis.
It's also really impressive, not just for juggling characters, but introducing not one but two new major Marvel superheroes, both of which were inspired casting and really well established initially. Spider-Man could have been so much more shoehorned and pointless than he was, and he does kind of get in and get out, but it's really impressive the way he was integrated. And we've already talked about Homecoming, and I've already called it my favorite live-action Spider-Man movie. So his introduction is really impressive, and yeah, I don't know. We've talked about this. I don't know what else I want to say about it right now, but it's weird. I've still not done any kind of a rewind on that. Hopefully it's not too much longer before we finally do the rewind commentary on it. But
yeah, I mean, we should fast track it. I would definitely be down to do that.
I think it's one that I kind of put off because there's so much in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a film I've seen like 8,000 times. Like, I could do that without rewatching it.
but it's so dense. I just really want to give it its due. There's a lot of different, interesting conversations to have with that.
Absolutely.
And it's like the antithesis, and I like this movie better than you do, and I put it on my list, but it is the antithesis to Age of Ultron in that it watches like it should be a whole season of television with just how many characters and subplots there are, but it doesn't feel that way at all.
No, and I actually feel like it's a movie that's pretty easy to go from Winter Soldier to Civil War, in that I think it does a good enough job like explaining who everyone is. That was how I showed my dad the MCU. Was I showed him Winter Soldier and then Civil War, and he had like no issue following it.
Sure. And obviously, there's complaints to be had. I mean, the Crossbones thing at the beginning is lame.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never been a big fan of the master manipulation plot in that. I never thought that was necessary. I've got issues that Austin and hardly anybody else on the planet does. It is still 21 on my list.
I mean, I think it was lower on my list.
Yeah, I think it was.
A lot.
Like, I've never liked Tony's reaction with Captain America to finding out what happens with his parents and all of that. I always thought that was too over the top. Like, I have issues with it, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it works for that scene, but fair enough.
We'll talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Austin, what is your number 20?
My number 20 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
What?
Huh?
Huh?
The only other good Zorro movie. This is on the list. You can't get mad at me for
No, I'm not mad at you. I forget about some of these movies that you snuck in on the list.
No, it's genuinely a Zorro movie, like just straight up.
I've just never seen it.
Yeah, it's one of the best animated films in like, oh god, like the last like 10 years.
And you're not on an island with that. I've heard a lot of people talk about how great that movie is, but I've not seen it.
Yeah. No, and I haven't even seen the first one. Like, so I've heard that's just kind of mediocre. This one I really like. It's like the superhero kind of coming back. Like it's he's retired because they have a whole thing because he's a cat. He has 9 lives, and he's used up 8, and now death's coming for him. And he can't beat death, so he runs away and hides and retires, and he gets brought out into this adventure. And it does a cool thing where it's like him, and there's like 2 or 3 other groups that are also on this adventure. So we kind of get like other villains in through that, but then like they're not all evil. Like it's really cool, the character dynamics they bring in with that. And just everything with Puss in Boots and death and like trying to outrun him is really great. And yeah, I mean, it's the type of arc where you know where it's going like right from the start, but it's just executed really well. And yeah, I actually did the first time I watched it, I did a double feature of Mask of Zorro and that, and it played like a really good sequel. Despite
neat.
Yeah, because like I said, like it is just Antonio Banderas didn't get to do good Zelda Zorro sequels.
He didn't do that either. That's the obvious casting.
The entire time
for Link.
Like, don't say Zelda, don't say Zorro. Whiplash.
Oh, okay, so you have to say it like Gal Gadot. That's
yeah.
Zorro.
They're coming for you, Zorro.
Zorro.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's when I look forward for us doing, because I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah, that's the only way I would ever think to watch that. Like, it just wouldn't even be on my radar.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Okay, my number 20 is The Incredibles.
Okay, I expected that to be a lot higher.
I mean, there's a lot of contenders at this point.
No, it is really hard.
And that's one of those movies that, despite how, like, kind of night perfect I've always thought it was, and that's not to say that every other movie past this I'm going to say is night perfect. Again, these are favorites before they're the best. It's not a movie that I've gone back to in quite a while. And
yeah, I've got that.
I imagine when I watch it again, I'll go, "Oh yeah, this is brilliant," and I would maybe pop it up a little bit again. But it's one of those movies that when I go back and I start thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, here's all these ideas I really love, and it's also just a really fun, smart piece of entertainment. I love that soundtrack a lot. I miss early Pixar, like a lot of people, for lots of reasons, but one of them is they did a lot of really great jazz soundtracks. And
Oh,
I'm a
sure.
jazz guy, and I loved the spy thriller Bond kind of score that has, but a lot jazzier than your average Bond score.
Hmm.
Monsters
No,
Inc. has that
absolutely.
too, not with the
I,
Bond part, but the jazz score.
I do find I have that with a lot of the early Pixar films where they're just not really movies I go back to, even if they're ones I really like.
Well, I think with Incredibles, it's just I saw it too many times, and
I
so
have that with quite a few. Like I don't know if I could ever watch Nemo again.
like a lot of
Beyond,
Pixar, I just don't go back to, and like my kids watch them, but I haven't
yeah,
sat down and actually watched it with them in a long time.
yeah.
So I come in and out of Wall-E all the time because it's Mikey's favorite, but I haven't actually watched that start to finish in a very long time. But anyway, thematically, the thing I've always admired most about that movie is what it has to say uh, about like mediocrity and like expected mediocrity and people that are great at things being expected. And this is such a contemporary idea that continues to permeate and and this is maybe even more relevant now than it was when that came out. This idea that if you are great at something, you have to keep it to yourself and be careful not to flaunt it because you might hurt somebody's feelings because they can't do what you can do. And that always really resonated with me.
Exactly. And I mean, if everyone's an ultimate human, no one is.
And obviously, the family dynamic's really great. And I also really appreciate, like I said, the Bond thing with that because I'm not a giant spy guy, but I think it's neat that that movie is not generic superhero. Like it's a blend of a couple of genres.
Hmm.
So it is straight up superhero. And as I always talk about, one of the things I always admired about it is the kind of history and mythology of that movie is looking at Watchmen real hard, where you used to have superheroes. I don't think they're exactly outlawed, but everybody just gave it up, and they're not doing that anymore. And it's that legacy thing, and it's the world is more cynical now, and doesn't appreciate heroes the way it did during its golden age. That whole thing, but I think it's cool that it's all of that, but with a Bond villain, but with a Bond villain that used to want to be a superhero,
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
And there's just an edge to that movie that I really blew me away in the theater when it first came out, and it felt like we were maybe going in more of an adult direction with some Pixar movies. And I wish, and I don't mean that everything had to be like that, but I wish more of them had followed that track where it pushed the envelope just a little bit because that movie is perfectly fine for children. It is not a kids movie. Like it
Hmm.
really isn't.
Yeah, and that's something I feel like we lost when we got to the second one. Is I do think that the second one lost
Absolutely.
its bite, but
It feels
it
sanitized in comparison.
no, exactly. Uh,
Have we talked about this already? Was this on your
we
list?
have. This was on my
Oh,
list.
okay.
This would have
Sorry, I
been
probably repeated everything I said.
no, it's okay. Um, have you seen Brad Bird's Mission Impossible, Cap?
I still haven't. Which one? Which one is his?
The fourth one, Ghost Protocol.
I don't think I ever saw that one.
I recommend it. It's really good.
Yeah,
It's one where he
Sarah and I,
climbs the building.
Sarah and I keep threatening to watch through that franchise, and I think we started it at one point. We never got back to it, so
Oh, okay.
we'll have to
Well,
do that.
this year's the last
It's,
one,
it's the
so
last one, so it's
it's a
the
good
time to
time.
do it. We were gonna do
Exactly.
it for the one that came out last year, or the year before,
Mhm.
and we just didn't get around to finishing them. Anyway, whatever. Austin, what is your? This is what I get for trying to do a stream right after a 3 hours writing, 3 hour writers meeting. I can't even freaking talk now. Austin, what is your number? What are we at? 19?
19. So
19.
my number 19 we did on Rewind recently, so I won't go too deep into it. But my number 19 is Disney's Hercules. which is absolutely a movie I love a lot from my childhood, and I think it really holds up for me, despite that. But that is probably an example that's more subjective than objective. But uh, yeah, I really like that movie. It's oh, sorry, what
Well,
were you
I
gonna
was just
say?
gonna say, and I came to appreciate it a great deal more after we talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's probably my favorite Disney musical. Then I just think overall, like it's just a fun movie, a fun jamming of Superman and Rocky.
Yep. And the Meg character is completely underappreciated.
Oh, 100%.
That was one of my big takeaways this time. Was I was like, I love this character.
Yeah.
She's just Lois Lane. I don't care. She's wonderful.
Mhm. No, at least Hades gets some love. Like he is still, I think, kind of
Well, that's
recognized
not
as
fair
one of
either
the
because she's
better
got this kind of
villains.
duplicitous thing that I guess Lois can sometimes be kind of duplicitous, but I don't know that she would do what Meg does.
Hmm. Yeah, she's a little more treacherous,
That's the
but
right word.
yeah, but she is very much still Lois Lane.
But yes, it did not take much convincing once I looked at it again to see it both as a superhero movie and as a better Disney movie than I gave it credit for when it came out.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're also into that period where the Renaissance was coming to an end, so like it
Yeah.
was, I think, easier to be like, it's getting worse. But
Well, and I was at the time I was on the bandwagon of this is not what I want these to look like,
mhm.
and now I much more appreciate the risk they took with that.
Oh my God, especially compared to Disney now.
Well, yeah, but I just mean in the character models and stuff where I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I see what they're doing. They're trying to do the Grecian urn thing. I couldn't get excited about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's still not my favorite thing, but I appreciate it more than I did back then, I guess.
Absolutely. What is your number 19?
My number 19 is Black Panther.
Oh, okay, nice.
Which notoriously I like a lot better than Austin does, and I still really stand by it. I've always thematically I think that movie handles its racial issues for especially the genre and for a big commercial movie in a real mature kind of way. I like its message, and I don't think it's too heavy-handed. That just flipping the script and having the oppressees become the oppressors is the answer. I think it has a villain with real bite, and at the time I thought that character felt like he could have come out of one of the Netflix Marvel shows. And it's just got a sleekness to it that some of the effects at the end notwithstanding, because it absolutely has some action issues, um, but I love the look of that movie, just the atmosphere and the design of it. I agree with Austin that Wakanda is very underrealized. And that was the part of it where I went, it's like X-Men. We can do more with a sequel. And then we sort of did, but that movie's not great. So, that's unfortunate. At least that movie is about something. At least it's got a decent character arc. Um, but yeah, that was a real special movie to me when it came out.
No, I mean, you don't have to argue about that. Like, it was a special movie for a lot of people. Like, I felt weird walking out going, "Oh, that didn't really work for me."
Oh,
Like,
sure.
I,
I
like,
mean,
I
I've
was so excited
I've
after
had that
Civil
with stuff.
War.
But I mean, you gotta admit, Boseman's great. Like,
Oh, Boseman's always great. That's like part of my disappointment is all of his best material for me is in Civil War, and then after that, they don't really do enough with him, and I'm like, oh, I kind of wish he got more to do, but
that outside of Civil War was, and then obviously you get to Infinity War, and I guess I have this again, but that was one of the better theatrical experiences I had had in a long time, where it really felt like an event, and not just because of all the hype around it, the kind of social obsession that happened with that movie. Because honestly, the social obsession made me really leery of it. Because I went to that thinking, and I don't want to get political or anything, but I went to that thinking, well, God, people are gonna love this even if it sucks. Like that was my worry with it. Where it was gonna be all about, you know, just kind of optics, and it's a good movie because it's important, and like I've experienced this with things where I'm like, I don't think you're looking at the actual material. I think you're just glad about who's in it, you know. And I was really happy that at least for me, Black Panther like really lived up to all of that. Maybe it was overhyped, maybe it was overappreciated, sure, but it wasn't about nothing. And again, the racial stuff wasn't handled poorly, and like that really mattered to me. Because if it was gonna be that historically important, it needed to be good.
Yeah, and I do feel like they have tried to like recapture that, where they go, okay, what is like another group that we can do with that we did with Black Panther, like where we get that kind of like cultural like phenomenon with. Like I do feel like that's why we get Shang-Chi and the remake of Mulan like at the same time. Like I do
Yeah.
feel like they were trying to do that again, but for like China, for example, which is like very cynical. But like I do think that is part of like why they greenlight some things now, unfortunately.
No, I agree.
But I agree. Like I don't really have that with Black
And
Panther.
regardless of what the cultural impact of it is, you just hope the thing is good. And I think their heart was in a better place with Black Panther. Black Panther doesn't feel like a movie that was made to be a cultural phenomenon. It just turned out that way. I don't know if you'd agree with that. Maybe I'm giving it too much credit when I say that, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's cynical in that way.
I mean, like a lot of the people involved in it certainly felt like it was an important moment and wanted to be in it because it was, and not just like first huge giant budget, because we'd had like, quote unquote black superhero movies before, but like the first movie of that scale that was a mostly black cast. But the reason that was important is because for some people, I think, is because superhero movies were the tentpole thing that everybody was going to.
Yeah,
So
totally.
I get why folks wanted to be in it.
Mhm.
I'm just glad it was good.
Yeah, for sure. No, and like I said, I'm more disappointed with Black Panther than anything.
Well, there's a lot of things about that movie that really spoke to me that were some of the things that you most disliked about it. Like, I loved Shuri. Did not have that in the sequel, but, I've had this exactly one time with that character.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd like too about on par. Like I feel like there are things I think it does a little bit better and things it does a little bit
Really?
worse.
Because I think 2 is this giant step down. I think that
But
third
I
act
don't
is
like-
embarrassing.
I don't like Killmonger and I like Namor in
Well, I do like Namor, but
the
that's
second one. Like
that's
that's like the
about the
main
only-
thing that like props it up. But like I said, it's about even. Like I don't love either of those movies.
okay, but the way they kill him off.
Oh, I
off
think it's
screen
like
and everything at the beginning.
incredibly. I think it's incredibly.
It's in poor taste.
Yeah, I was trying to not to go too far, like to be hyperbolic, but I said that when it was coming out. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's incredibly in poor taste. That
Yeah,
we're making-
sure. But regardless of what you knew before the movie came out, I don't know how you can say it's on par when it opens with that.
But I think part of it though, Cap, is that I went in being like, oh my god, like I don't even want to watch this. Like I was dragged to that at home. I didn't see it in the theater.
You
and
were
then
dragged in your house.
Exactly, and I was just kind of like, this is about on par. I don't really feel strongly about either. But no, I think that part's incredibly in poor taste.
Tobin Bellpons, once again, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. He says, Austin, I volunteered at the festival Toxic Avenger 2023 premiered at. Sorry, I just wanted to brag. Great show, guys.
Oh, it cuts so deep.
And then he's going to come back and say, I mean, I was volunteering so I didn't get to see the movie, but I was there.
I was really hoping I was going to end with, by the way, I watched it and it sucked.
Did Black
I
Panther
mean,
make
it's
your
coming out on my birthday. I can't be mad.
Did Black Panther even make your list? I can't remember.
It did not. I contemplated it, and then I think finally I was like, I'm just gonna complain about it if I put it on my list.
Sure.
So like it would be like an honorable mention.
Uh, yeah, and then I feel we're doing honorable mentions for 100. That just feels insulting.
Especially because there's things on my list where I'm like, this doesn't even belong on my list. Get this out of here.
What? Yeah, I know. You've struggled a little harder with your bottom 20 than I did, I think.
Yeah, no, I want a special edition. It's so bad, but it's okay. I'm stuck with it. We're in it.
Dude, I have the same thing. I guess I'm feeling a little bit more confident about my top picks here, but
Oh yeah, it's like I would say anything below maybe 80,
could have just gone anywhere.
80, 85. I feel like after, yeah.
There's maybe 40 movies you could have put anywhere in there, and you're stuck with what you picked.
Yeah, exactly. My top 85 is the objective. This is correct.
And that's why we should have made this just a top 85. Okay, exactly. Austin, what is your 18?
My number 18.
Ooh, although, now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if I'm happy with my 18.
Uh-oh.
Oh, maybe I wish I could rearrange this. God, this whole thing's gonna be weird. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh boy, now I just want to skip my 18.
No, go ahead.
My number 18 is X-Men First Class, which is a movie. We're just getting down to the wire. We're like, I don't know. It's hard to put things over one another. It should maybe be higher, but I don't know. X-Men First Class, I think I've gushed about a billion times, and I think I did it when you put it on your list, so I won't go too much into it. But
yeah, that was 27 on mine.
Yeah. No, that's my favorite X-Men film. It's beautiful. I think we went for a while on it with your list, so I'll leave it at that.
Well, what's like the main element or two that puts it over the other X-Men movies?
I think of the prequel movies, I think it does the historical fantasy thing the best.
It sure does.
I also just really love Xavier and Magneto in that film. There's also just a look to it I really like.
And a sound.
Yeah. And I don't know, Matthew Vaughn's just like a really great director. Like, I really like all of his stuff. Even everyone hated Argyle. I thought it was okay. But I don't know, I just really like Matthew Vaughn. Like, I just really gel with his stuff, I think. He and I we're on that same Bond frequency, I think.
So I'm looking at my list, and adult me and child me are having an epic confrontation.
Oh no!
That's what's happening
here.
Because there are movies that I feel like should maybe be a little higher and bump some other things further down, but childhood me is like, no, but this is formative. It's not less your favorite. So anyway,
Can I guess?
Well, okay, so because of all that, you're gonna think that 18 is a childhood movie. It isn't. What I'm feeling weird about is how low a more recent movie is because of what's above it. So 18. And I feel like if I made this yesterday, this would be higher. But 18 on my list is The Batman.
Oh, okay.
And that is feeling...
I knew it was a Batman movie.
That is feeling a little low to me.
I mean, that's fair.
But I need to spend more time with it is part of the problem. Is just... Yeah. You know what my biggest issue with The Batman is?
It's so long and you have kids.
It's so friggin' long! And it's not too long. It's the length it needs to be. Like Roger Ebert always said, like, a good movie is never too long. But I don't have the time to watch it, especially because it's violent enough I can't just turn it on in front of my kids. So anyway, I need to spend more time with that. It was And we have not talked about this yet because I'm sure that's going to be quite a bit higher on your list. But um, that
They
movie,
should do like a kids cut though, so you can watch it with your kids, where it's got like Dora at the side, like the corner of the frame that like explains things to you in Spanish. So it's like there's some learning to it.
I love the look of that movie. Love the mood of that movie. I love how well it carves out yet a new tone and take from all of the variations we'd had before. And we've had this conversation a million times, you and I, Austin, but it is so weird how much big screen Batman we had before we got some things that are definitive, very important, crucial things to Batman that just had not made the big screen before. So finally, the detective stuff. Finally, the emphasis on the organized crime aspect in a way we had not really had before. And it's and I love their Catwoman so much. That's a lot of it with me for that movie. Is just that relationship is wonderful. As is of course Batman's relationship with Gordon, and it's also really impressive to me to have a Batman movie that in some ways feels like really definitive, and in other ways goes against the grain, and it all really comes together and is really fresh and able to surprise me as a Batman fan that's seen everything. Right, Batman has always been the character that refuses to change, and the Batman movie that, and it's easier to do this when it's early in his career and he hasn't found himself as Batman yet, but the Batman movie that finally brings us Detective Batman, that finally has like the definitive Jim Gordon, etc., is also the one Batman movie where he's got an honest to God character arc where where he changes quite a bit by the end.
Yeah, and he's not really like Bruce Wayne. Like it does have that he's not fully the character until the end thing.
It does have that.
But like not even in a negative way. Like it just does it really well.
Yeah, is that also the first live action Batman movie? Would you argue, Austin, that has the Bruce Wayne that thinks of him as himself as Batman first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Nolan movies acted like they were going to go that way, and then they did a hard left by Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean that's a Batman that is so like enraged by the sight of guns that he like goes into turbo mode.
Yeah,
He's so like locked in and like this is what I'm doing. Like I am vengeance.
yeah, like he has almost a death wish at the start of that movie, and it looks almost like the antithesis of animated series. And then when you get to the end of the movie, you realize that's one of the things they're looking at the most.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as I've talked about before, I love the blend of 101 Batman things in that movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And giving me all four of the Batman villains from the Adam West movie is one of just the nicest things that he could have done. It's wonderful. That's such a cool nod to that stuff.
Matt Reeves recently said that every now and then he will see theories about who people think will be the villain of 2, and he's like, they make me laugh because I think you're all going to be wrong. And the sequel to the 66 film was going to be Batman versus Godzilla, and WB is distributing the new MonsterVerse films. I'm just throwing that out there. We could get what was almost the Adam West film sequel next.
I don't know how many people know that, but there was almost a Batman versus Godzilla movie with Adam West in the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. And now there will be one in 2027.
How different would the world be if
the
that
second
had
Batman film was Batman versus Godzilla? Like, hugely different.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm a little apologetic about putting that low, especially because you're going to think my next two after that or in front of that are very strange.
No, I mean, that's honestly, I expected it to be even a little lower. So, like, the fact that it's that high, I think it's completely fair.
Yeah, it's like in some ways it is now the definitive Batman movie, but it's not my favorite.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine.
And I don't know if it ever will be. It's possible.
Mhm.
But if I was younger, I think it would be. That's the thing. If that was the Batman movie I grew up with, because you see Jason with that movie.
Mhm. Oh yeah, no, he adores that.
That's in his top 5.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I talked about that too long. I'm sorry. What is
No, we haven't gotten to the Batman yet. You're fine.
what is your 17?
My number 17 is another one that we just did on Rewind, so don't have to go into it too much. We're like right in that hot spot where it's like we've done a few of these things, or we're about to do them.
Yeah.
So I can kind of rush through some.
Well,
Of
we're
these.
pushing 40.
Yeah, that is true. We've gotten quite a few.
I am 40, but I mean we're pushing 40 reviews or commentaries on the commentary front.
My number 17 is The Return of Captain Invincible.
Wow, cool.
Yep.
How low was that on mine?
Uh,
39 is where I put it.
oh, okay.
But
For some reason, I thought you had it in the 20s.
having just done it on Rewind, I would have had it a little higher.
You think that your ranking's a little bull?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of think that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, what can you say about Captain Invincible? It's Captain Invincible.
There's nothing else like it.
Yeah, exactly.
And judging by our view count on that stream, still no one has seen that movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and to me, it's still the saddest thing where it's like in any filmography, it is the best film a director's ever made, but not in that director's filmography, and it's very tragic.
Everyone's debating in the comments about where I'm gonna have Batman Forever.
So when you first started talking, I was like, he's making us think it's 89, but it's gonna be forever. And then when you said it's not something I grew up with, I was like, oh, it's the Batman.
Yeah, I should have let you guess.
Yeah, no, my guess would have been forever. But that's okay.
Yeah, we did just do a deep dive on Captain Invincible, so I'm struggling to even think of like questions to ask you about it because we just had a conversation about this.
Yeah, exactly. We just did like 2 hours on it. And a half.
But you think all the music works?
Yeah, no, I like all the music. I like all the actors in it. It's kind of one of those films where there's nothing I would change about it.
Yeah, like I like it.
One of those.
I like it for some of its flaws too.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like you can't say it's a perfect movie, but it's perfect in the sense I don't want to mess with it.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean that's so much of B movies where it's like they are perfect because of their flaws.
Which is why the theatrical version is painful and you should never watch it.
Yeah, no, I will go out of my way to never see that. I was thinking the other day though, Cap, you were telling me about your 3-pack that you own that has that in it, and I know the other film is The Howling 2, but I don't know what the third one is. I can't remember.
Communion.
Oh, okay, Communion. Well, I have to see that. That might be the greatest 3-pack of all time if Communion is a good movie.
We should watch those. We should do a triple feature.
I would love to show you Howling 2 so bad you have no idea.
What is the thing that we can say to convince people to watch that movie?
We're trying to Captain Invincible?
Yeah. Convincible. That we can convince them to watch that movie. Especially because it's hard to get. I mean, it's not hard to buy now, and there's a wonderful release, but you know, you'd have to spend $30 on a movie you haven't seen. It's hard to stream.
You know, I had to watch that on like Russian Reddit. Like that was such a hard movie to find. I couldn't even rent it. Like, I mean, yeah, it's got Christopher Lee and Alan Arkin as Superman. Like, if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what else will.
It's like Iron Man and Captain America at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically a better Civil War. Except the Civil War is internal.
And like you watch it for the ridiculousness, but it's like shockingly smart.
Mm. No, he's got a genuinely good character arc.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we got to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you need convincing, just go and watch the Christopher Lee song on YouTube, and if you're not sold after that, then I don't know what to tell you. You won't like it.
So, I still feel... Is my turn?
Yep.
Okay, I still feel really funky about where I put the Adam West Batman movie. Batman the movie was at 30 on my list, and I still feel like it should have been a little higher. And we talked about this, but, like, you know, I sort of wanted to move it around. I put the Powerpuff Girls movie above it. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel especially, and I mean, I still love that movie, but yeah. I especially feel weird about it because of my 17, and I would still put my 17 above it, but I still feel like it should be a little bit closer in rank to my 17. So I did put two Batman movies back to back. My 17 is Return of the Cape Crusaders.
Oh, okay, now I was thinking it was Batman Forever again.
That's hilarious.
I'm gonna have this every time now, except I know it won't be the next one because you said I have two back to back.
Well, I could have three back to back, and I'm just messing with you.
That is true. It could be Batman Forever. I'm just gonna think Batman Forever is your next one until you get there, but it'll be like number 2, so it'll be like the entire time.
But yeah, Return of the Cape Crusaders was such a special movie for me, and I've gone back to it a number of times. It's one of my absolute favorite animated movies. It's still like kind of animated Batman movies and animated superhero things. It's still like a pinch me kind of thing where I can't even believe it got made. Much less that we got 2 of them and they were both really good. And it's really nice that 2 of those were written at the same time, and it would have been nice if there were plans for more, but Adam West didn't die before he had a chance to make more that were planned. That's really nice. I'm glad that it was just, we were going to make these 2. Maybe we'll make more. Oh, Adam West passed away. We're not losing out on anything. Mm-hmm. So that's great. Obviously, super sad that Adam West passed, but I'm really glad that he got to do those before he did.
Yeah.
There were 2 huge things for him that I feel like kind of vindicated his Batman career a little bit, maybe in his own eyes even. One was that the 60s show finally got a release, and a really good release. And he got to go on a press tour for all of that and everything. And the second thing is that he got to play the character again, and in really good, solid entries. Mm-hmm. Return of the Cape Crusaders is one of the great love letters to the history of Batman. It's so clever and creative in how it handles its references. It's good fan service in the same way, but even elevated a little bit above Batman vs. Ninja Turtles, which is one of my kind of gold standard movies for that. And I love the way it takes the style and kind of the attitude of the 60s comics, and makes it a grander thing where you get all kinds of stuff that the TV show or the movie just would not have had the budget to do, to make the whole thing a little bit more comic booky and grander. 60s Batman finally gets to go to space. He's got a bat rocket. That's really fun. We get the 4 villains from the original movie, and most of them are voiced pretty well. I don't know why the Penguin is just the same kind of standard Tom Kenny voice that he had in The Batman, but whatever, a TV show. But whoever's doing their Cesar Romero Joker is like really impressive. So I love a lot of the sound alikes. There's some really fun surprises in that, and it's wonderfully absurd. It's brilliant, and I got to see it in the theater, which was awesome.
Yeah, I've only seen that once, but I did really like it when I watched it. So I don't remember it super well, but there are like a few jokes that I remember from seeing it. Like I remember Wes doing like the "Let's Get Nuts" and stuff like that in the Dark Knight Returns speech. I remember. What is it, where they're like crossing the street and he's like, "Wait, Robin, like to the crosswalk." It's a really fun film.
It's just really cool how it looks at, again, the history of Batman and how it gets darker and darker. I mean, not entirely. There's outliers that are lighter, but how once that's allowed to get darker in 89, it keeps going in that direction. And then you take 60s Batman, which gave Batman this campy reputation, and then through the lens of that, you look back at everything that came after it. And it's such a cool thing to do with that. And then just Batman being his own villain is a lot of fun. And playing with, in a real tongue-in-cheek way, all of the, and like satirically, some of the like obvious problems that should arise in that world but don't, because it's a because it's just a pulp cereal kind of thing. So like the world revolves too much around Batman, and when he takes over, that's a big problem. And he's got this massive ego, and he's obsessed with himself. But the show and Batman himself are never aware of that. But then once there are a bunch of clones of him, and he takes over everything, it's all about like his ego and how he wants the whole world to revolve around him, and he's like his own best Batman villain. Like, it's wonderful.
It is tragic. We could have had the Godzilla film as the third animated one. If life was perfect, we lived in a perfect world, that could have been the third film.
That would have been the thing to do, wouldn't it? If they could have gotten the license to cross them over. Either that or adapt some stuff from the Wonder Woman 77 crossovers.
Yeah,
that would have been good too.
Sure.
Because there's some good stuff in those.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised we haven't tried doing that animated thing with Linda Carter.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe they just don't think it'll sell well, like as a straight-to-DVD movie.
Yeah, because it's not remembered as well. Like, a lot of people remember Linda Carter, but couldn't tell you one thing about that show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I've gushed about that long enough. What is your 16?
My 16. Okay, so my 16 is the last film on my list that I would drastically change, and I promise that's the last one. My number 16 is Iron Man 3. And
where did I put Iron Man 3?
I don't know.
Sorry, this remember. Is it on my list? Oh, yeah, 73. That seems low. I do like Iron Man 3. But I guess everything can't be high. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not a movie you tend to go back to. Like, it's not
true.
Like that kind of movie for you. And Iron Man 3 definitely is for me. Like I said, there's things I would tweak about it. Like, I would get rid of the PTSD and replace it with alcoholism, which I think I've talked about before. But yeah, that's fine. I'll talk about the things I really like about Iron Man 3. I really like its take on the Mandarin. I really like I think it was maybe not last time, maybe the time before, we had like a discussion about Iron Man and Dark Knight and where they're at with like the War on Terror stuff. And we kind of talked about how Dark Knight has a little bit more to say, while Iron Man, it's present throughout most of it. Mm-hmm. Iron Man at 3, I think, is kind of like that perfect middle where it has much more to say about it, and like it's also, you know, one of the major themes of the movie as opposed to the first film. Yeah, like I think it's just a really good Iron Man film. It has one of the best themes in the MCU, and we completely abandoned it afterwards.
Isn't that sad?
Heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, some of that's because we don't make any more standalone Iron Man movies after it, but it should have popped in an Avengers movie somewhere.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I feel like the MCU should have like specific character themes that like carry throughout, and we don't do that because they don't do it enough.
There are points where we do, but you're absolutely right. No, it sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And that movie has the best credits MCU has ever had,
and like easily,
and
easily
by a lot.
The best one, yeah. No, it's amazing.
There's a couple of nice ones, like the one at the end of Avengers is good, but like. Or is it Age of Ultron? I forget. What's the one with the big statue? Because that was kind of cool.
That's Age of Ultron.
Yeah, that one's not bad. Like, there's some okay ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a lot of just things like that. Like, I prefer the way Iron Man 3 handles it, where it's like montagey, like a 70s TV show.
Yeah,
It's
they made it like an
awesome.
80s action TV show. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's like the A-Team.
Yep.
It's fantastic. No, and I will forever be heartbroken that Iron Man 4 fell through.
No, that was so inspired.
Mhm. Yeah, no, exactly. I think the way it does the technology stuff, as opposed to like Extremis, is really cool. Because I really didn't want them to go to the Extremis way, where the suit's like in him, and I thought that was handled really well. It is definitely a compromised film. Like I do think it would have been better if Rebecca Hall was the main villain, like it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But as is, like I think Guy Pearce is fine.
Some of its best ideas are not brought enough to the fore either, because you can just tell that script is gutted too much,
Yeah,
and
no,
you can
exactly.
hear the frustration in Shane Black's voice in his commentary about that really confirms that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I think it's just a really fun film to watch too. Like I like um, that you take like you strip the armor from Tony for a lot of it, and it's a lot of him, getting by, like just building things in the moment. I think all that stuff's really cool, and it's got the first MCU reference of Man Thing, so it's in my heart for that because it included his wife.
And not that there's a ton of them, but probably the best child performance in an MCU movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like any other child performances in the MCU, but you are correct. Like it is definitely the best one.
I mean, it's certainly the kid that's on screen the longest. You've got things like Morgan and stuff, but like there's not a lot
Yeah,
of kids
I
in
guess
the
that's true.
MCU.
Yeah. No, and I think she's a good child actress as well.
Yeah, but I
Um,
mean, she's on screen for a fraction of the amount of time that kid in Iron
yeah,
Man 3 is,
exactly.
and
It
that's a
also is,
risk. He could have been awful.
yeah. No, it's also an MCU film made at like a slightly different time in that he also calls that child the P word for being sad that his dad left him, which is insane. That's in a
Which you
Marvel
wouldn't
film, but it's
have done
awesome.
even 2 years after it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because
But
that's
it's
the last Paramount distributed film, but Disney
but
would
it's
have owned them when they were
hilarious.
making it. But yeah, no, it's wild. But I don't know. That's one of those movies that I really like, despite its flaws. Like I do think it
Hmm.
is a very flawed movie, but it's also so I go back and forth between Iron Man 1 and 3, where I think 1 is a better made film, but 3 is slightly more of what I want in an Iron Man film, but it's also much more flawed. And so because of that, they go back and forth for me. But at this point, I would put Iron Man 3 under it, clearly, by where it's at the list. But yeah,
Well, and it's so tough when you're looking at like the movie that invented a lot of things that its sequels then continue. It's so difficult to
yeah,
compare those things because you're talking about fundamentals versus the next chapter in something.
yeah, exactly. When I also like Iron Man 3, because Iron Man 3 also plays it like an ending. And I like Tony's ending in 3 more than I like his actual ending in the MCU. I'm sure that's probably a hot take, but I do really like where it leaves him in that movie.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I found that so confusing at the time, right? I
Well,
couldn't.
the specific like how he takes out the heart thing, I agree. I just
Yeah,
feel like overall,
but just that being the status quo.
yeah, yeah. No, the actual like taking the heart stuff out, I think is very rushed over.
Well, we'd be remiss not to say, uh, and this isn't a reason to put it real high on a list, but it's leaps and bounds better than two. Like it's kind of unusual to see such a stark contrast in quality in the positive direction between a two and
Especially
a
'cause it's the one
between
that
a two and a
changes
three.
director.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
Like
that's
it's the
really
one that changes
unusual.
the director, and it like improved off of the second one, which was lackluster.
Like you have trilogies where your third movie is the best or one of the best, but I think it's rare for your third movie to be great when your second movie kind of sucked, right?
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think Iron Man 3 has been, reappreciated like as time has gone on, but I do think it still has that reputation of being the worst one
You mean Iron
with
Man
a lot of
2?
people. No, no,
Or no,
3.
3? Oh,
No,
well,
I
they're
see.
just just plain wrong about that.
I agree, but I do think it still has that reputation.
Yeah. Well, and some of that's just what you wanted versus what you were given, and there's no arguing with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
And no one will ever argue about how much the Mandarin twist sucks more than people who've never read Iron Man.
So this is a favorites list, and I'm pulling from movies that are on the list. So even though this is not a superhero movie, first and foremost, it's on the list. It counts. And it's one of my favorite movies now of all time. So as odd as it is to have this so high on a superhero movie list, my 16 is the Lego Movie.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you had already said the Lego Movie, but it must have been another one of the Lego.
Lego Batman, probably.
Oh, okay. So it's probably that I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm. And I guess there's the argument to be made for that as a superhero movie, even despite just Batman being in it. So, like, I could probably make an argument for just that story as a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But it probably isn't that any more than, like, The Matrix, which we don't count. You know, you got the special.
It all becomes arbitrary.
You got the one. He's figuring out that he's the character that can save the universe and all of that. Like, he's a superhero as much as, like, a Luke Skywalker or something, and we don't count that either. But it's got Batman in it, so it tends to count on lists. And the Lego Batman movie is obviously a superhero movie, so it's a little odd to not include the movie that it spun up. Anyway, my reasons for loving that movie don't have a lot to do with it counting as a superhero movie, is the point I'm making. But I think it's one of the greatest kids movies ever made, and certainly in the last couple of decades. It has one of the coolest surprise meta twists in anything, I think, and I really like what it has to say about the importance of imaginative play, and I just really liked a big like toy company that makes toys with instructions, making a movie where the point is do whatever you want with our stuff. Like, I just thought that was such a cool message to come from a thing like that commercial that is a toy commercial. And it just really massively resonated with me. You know, you look at the first act of that movie and it looks like it has all kinds of things to say about a lot of like social satire about conformity and being like a sheep or a lemming and just doing what you're told. And then you find out in the third act that all of that is there, but it's not about, like, you can apply it to real life and typical everyday social structures, but at the end of the day, it's just about a kid that feels like his father doesn't care about him and is oppressing him and not letting him play with his toys. And the two levels that works at is so oddly sophisticated. I've always loved it for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
Now everyone's giving you crap for picking the Lego Movie.
It's on our list of superhero movies. We will have to do a rewind commentary on it at some point. And so I'm like, do I put it lower just because it barely counts? Like, that seems weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Robert says, I love that the Lego Movie is a Matrix parody and you guys don't count the Matrix. Yeah, and like, I go back and forth on the Matrix. Sometimes I feel like I should count it, but then I feel like I'm in a place where I have to count Star Wars, so I don't want to do that. But the Lego Movie is a Matrix parody.
That is true.
We can agree on that. But like, the loophole with the Lego Movie is Batman is in it. Like, that's where you end up having to include it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll give you the Lego Movie. It's fine.
Well, do you not think it should have been in our list in the first place? Because I can't remember why it wound up there. I'm just saying it's on our list.
I wouldn't count it, but like, I don't. It's on the list.
Well, I'm just gonna rework my entire list now then, because I'm also fine not counting it. It's just it was there.
Yeah, it's fine.
And so I felt like I had to include it because it's one of my favorite movies and it's on the list.
That's all good.
This whole exercise is pointless and stupid.
Exactly. And everyone listening is stupid for having listened to it.
All these dumb ultimate humans. Austin, let's move on.
Yes, we're at what, 15?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass out at some point, but
oh no.
How much further should we go? We're so close to the end.
Well, we're not going to be able to finish.
I'm like, should we try to write it out? Well, we could.
There's no way we could finish at this point. I mean, we could maybe try to get to 10. I feel like, but even that, like, we're only at 15. We have a lot. And if you're already like,
Yeah. I'm somewhere between stopping now and going to bed and, like, rushing to the finish. I'm somewhere between there. Because we're at an hour 15, like, we're just past an hour. This would be a good stopping point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Because I also don't see us getting to 10. I think I'm too tired.
I assumed we were, like, way longer than we are. I'm actually proud of us, though. It's only been an hour.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like, we can almost do it. Well.
Yeah. Your call.
But, I don't know, 15 is just such a good round number. And that means we got through 6. So, yeah, that's good. And I gotta get up in the morning. Yeah, let's go ahead and call it now. And we'll come back and do a part 14 next week. I'm sorry, everybody. I want to be a little bit more lucid as we get into our top 15, I think.
I mean, everything I have moving forward is perfection, so...
Let me look at my list. Yeah, that's not true for mine.
Yeah, actually, most of my top 15 suck.
They're just movies I like. Leave me alone. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's installment of the everlasting gobstopper of series here on Geekvolution. It's the Energizer Bunny. It just keeps on going. But anyway, we'll see you again next week for another one of these. And Austin, thanks for staying up and doing it, man.
Yeah, it was good to chat about some topics.
You know what I'm excited about?
The Toxic Avenger next week.
Well, not as excited about the thing I'm about to say.
Okay.
I'm that I'm a little leery of. I'm excited. And the remake too. It's gonna be the Toxic Avenger. It's gonna be the year of the Toxic Avenger here on Geekvolution.
It's beautiful.
I've avoided it for 16 years, and now I'm gonna have to do 2 of them.
Unless people start requesting, and we can do all 5 this year.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's gonna happen. People are gonna just come out of the woodwork. Yeah. Austin, the thing I'm excited about is writing out my list of the worst.
Oh my god. Yeah, there's so many bad ones I haven't seen, so I'm like, I'm gonna have to watch like Catwoman and Green Lantern. I should probably rewatch Jonah Hill. Jonah Hex. That's how you know it's late.
Yeah, it is time to end the stream, clearly.
That's how you know it's time. The second you're like, oh, my favorite Western comic book is Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. Starring Jonah Hill. Wow. Oh. No, that's gonna be kind of a reckoning for you. You're gonna have to look at some tough ones.
Yeah.
See, that's the other reason that maybe we should give you some space for it, though.
I mean, there's probably not that many. Like I'd have to see Supergirl, the 2 I just mentioned, the 3 I just mentioned.
Part of the problem is there are crappy superhero movies you've never seen that I really want to be there the first time you see them.
Oh, okay.
I want to get to experience that. I have wanted to make you do a blind commentary for Catwoman forever. Like, I would love to watch you watch that movie.
That's the first rewind I get to do blind.
Well, it won't be a rewind. We'd have to. That's the thing is we'd have to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
Jareth Gerhardt, you haven't seen Green... No, he hasn't seen Green Lantern.
No, no, because at the time I was like, I don't like Green Lantern. I don't care about that. And then everyone hated it.
Robert, top 50 worst is going to be hard. There's too many I just consider mediocre. Well, that's the thing is, I think I can come up with 50 bad superhero movies that are not mediocre, that are just straight up bad.
Yeah, and I feel like we would have to do 50 because I don't think I could name 100. Like, I feel like 50 would be pushing it.
And I could certainly go to 100, but I've done this.
I mean, we can try for 100.
No,
I struggled with top.
I prefer doing 50 because I don't like the idea of doing a worst list where several at the bottom could easily have gone over to your best. Like, I don't like that, and that's why I think it needs to stick at 50, because there are too many movies that you considered putting on your 100 that you would have to begrudgingly put on a worst list, and that's weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first X-Men would possibly make my bottom 100. Like,
I honestly kind of wonder if this series shouldn't have been just 50 also.
We did it.
I mean, it was easier for me to come up with 100 that I was actually okay with than I think it was for you, where your bottom 20 or 30 you're like, I don't know.
We didn't bother to think about whether we should.
Oh, that's exactly right. Yeah, we were
selling it.
We were John Hammond about this. Absolutely.
I wish I didn't do that because it didn't make enough of a sound.
Before this is such a stupid joke. I was going to say, before we were John Hammond about this, before we were going to do a list of our top 100 flea circuses.
Exactly. We were John Hammond it up, really.
No, that's John Hamm.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, you're just like Jonah Hill. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Who knows?
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening. This is once again gone completely off the rails. That's us at 1 a.m. Anyway, we will be back again next week with part 14 of this.
I mean, Cap, I don't know. Some people are just always trying to ice skate up Jonah Hill.
Good night, everybody. Bye, folks.
See ya.
I can't believe you said that.